Hi, I'm Tom Tony, founder of Quest Rocket, and I want to take a quick second to share with you how to get the most out of your Quest student journals. The journal goes along with the character component of leadership training. It's the first level, it's the fuel of the rocket, and it's one of the pieces of the 4 that are available at that stage. And so I want to talk real quickly about how to use this journal, how to get the most out of it. First, the journal is broken up into 3 different topics: excellence, teamwork, and authority. And throughout the journal, your students are going to learn a little bit more about each of these topics. But the journal is then set up into 3 distinct sections. Each section covers each topic and then cycles back through to a next level of each topic. So for example, section 1 is going to cover 4 lessons of excellence, 4 lessons on teamwork, 4 lessons on authority. Then we're going to cycle back through. We're going to do 4 more on excellence, 4 more on teamwork, 4 more on authority. Cycle back through, 4 more on excellence, 4 more on teamwork, 4 more on authority, for a total of 12 lessons per topic, 12 journal entries per topic, for a total of 36 journal entries. Now, the reason that they're broken up into those categories is because if you are using, for example, the leader or the parent manual to go along with this, that's how the topics are broken up. One of the things we recognize is we don't want to just talk about leadership for 12 or excellence for 12 weeks. We want to break it up so the kids are getting exposure to many different things and aren't getting bored with the topics. And so that's why we go in cycles, let them process it. And so the journal is meant to be a weekly journal. So every week throughout the school year, it kind of follows the school year at 36 weeks. So every week on a given day, your child would sit down and they would go through and do their Quest student journal entry. And so inside each of the entries, let's just go through real quickly here what a lesson might look like. For example, this is the topic of excellence, and you'll see here it's 1.4. What that means is this is top excellence level 1, lesson 4, 1.4, and again coincides with the leader's manual if you're using that. If not, then they can just basically go through the journal. Within each journal entry, they'll have a topic that you're talking about, attitude. One of the things we say is excellence is an attitude. It's a way of thinking. We'll always have a key scripture that goes with that particular topic, and then we do just a little bit of a blurb and outline a lesson on what that scripture means. Now, if you're using the leader manual, this scripture will coincide with the leader's manual. Then we always ask a question. Here's a question, and we ask a question and we have the kids journal their thoughts about that question, and then a kind of a key thought that we try to share about the particular topic. So these 2 pages represent the basic lesson part of the journal entry, and we're hoping that reading comprehension, they're getting what they need out of this. You should see that reflected in how they're answering the questions and so on. And then the second part of every journal entry, there is always going to be some sort of activity. Now, sometimes these are activities they do on their own. Sometimes these are activities that they can get their friends involved in, ask their friends questions and so on. They're little games that they can play throughout. Each lesson has a different activity. And so, for example, this one says, knowing why you should or should not do something will help you make good choices. Draw a line from the items under should and should not to the why. So this is should do, obey your parents, right? And then down here is a group of whys. They're going to draw a line from the should obey your parents, come down and find the why, because God honors you. All right, so we'll draw a line to that answer and so on. So what we're trying to do in this particular entry is we're trying to help them understand cause and effect, the choices that they make and the consequences of their own choices. So we're trying to help them to learn to kind of self-manage their values and their thoughts and how they're making decisions. And so a little activity they can do. And of course, they can also do this with their friends, with their siblings, however you might want them to do that. And then finally, on the final piece over here for this one journal entry, there's a date. They'll write in today's date and just some simple questions about the day. On this particular part, they're not necessarily reflecting on the topic itself. They're reflecting on their life in general. So how was your day today? What was something funny that happened? What was something bad that happened? What did you learn from this lesson? So again, what we're trying to do is just unlock their emotion and their connection to the topic and their connection to life. This gives them a chance as they get older to go back and look at, how was I doing during this school year? How was I feeling as I went through the school year? And as a parent, it also gives you an opportunity, and we do recommend going back and reviewing these journal entries with your students. These are not meant to be a diary. These are meant to be a journal. And so journals are to be shared. And so we want your students to share this information with you. And hopefully some of these things that they'll write in here will open up a good, healthy dialogue for you and give you some insight to what's going on in their life and also how they're they're learning these topics. And so the journal is meant to be weekly, meant to be gone through once a week. We recognize that in the grand scope and all of the things that your students have to do, we wanted to make this sit kind of on top of those things and become a foundational piece, not dominate their schedule. And so we recommend that you go through this weekly. Now, there are some who say, you know, I want my child to go through this through the summer, and we want you to know that's perfectly fine. There are a couple suggestions that we do have about how to use this to make it function the best when you're doing the lessons more frequently. One of the first principles is this: we really believe that it's important that your child have time to process what they're actually learning. So in other words, if there are 36 lessons, so if you said, hey, we're going to go through this in 36 days, that might be a little tough for them to really digest what they're learning. In other words, the goal might be to get through it versus absorb it. So certainly if you only have 36 days, then yeah, by all means, dig in and go for it. But if you have more time, if you have several weeks over the summer, say 12 weeks of summer, for example, we would recommend taking one of a few approaches. Maybe you have them go through Excellence 1, so 1.1, 2, 3, and 4 in the first week, take a break for a few days, come back, and then do teamwork, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, and so on, and cycle through. If you cycle through that way, it take you, I believe, about 10 weeks to get through the journal. You can also do multiple per week. If you want to take 9 weeks and so on, you could do 3 lessons per week for 9 weeks, and you'll get through all the lessons. And so there's several variations that you can use. I believe the math was wrong on that, actually. 3, if you do all 4 lessons, do 4 lessons a week for 9 weeks, then you get through all the lessons. So there are ways that you can just basically do the math for the time that you have, with the key principle of giving them a minute to absorb. So if there's a day or two between each lesson, that's really kind of optimum, because now they're getting to reflect back on it. You're getting a chance to converse about it in the in-between time, and that really becomes pretty essential. And so that really is the journal. That's how the journal works. It's meant to flow through the school year. You can use it with or without the novels. Of course, we recommend the full character set. But if you're wanting just to jump in somewhere, great place to jump in. And the last piece that I want to share with you is to absolutely start a conversation around the things that your students are learning here. The journal is great for them to do on their own, but the power of the journal really does lie in the conversations it can spark. And that's what we want to see. We want to see with our kids that what they're learning is starting a new kind of level of vocabulary and conversation with us on a character level and on a leadership level. So we greatly encourage you to use the principles, read it yourself, go through, read it yourself, know what they're reading, and then you can talk to them about the topics from the journal, and that'll help to set those things in stone for them. So hopefully that's helpful. If you have other questions, please feel free to post in the comments below. We'll do everything we can to answer the questions that you have. We appreciate you taking on these resources. We really are hoping this is going to build a strong foundation for a future of great leadership for your students. So for Quest Rocket, I'm Tom Toney.